I just tell the truth, and telling the truth is crazy in a world full of lies. If you mix brilliance with bravery, that we can ignite something. Even this conversation alone can ignite the people.
The time is now to express and for people to believe in themselves. The time is now for it to be okay to be great. People in this world shun people for being great, for being a bright color, for standing out. But the time is now to be okay to be the greatest you.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your girl Kelly, and we are back with another video. If you're new to this channel and you enjoy true crime stories and news and politics, things of that nature, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me, guys. I would very much appreciate it. Anything you can do, like the video, give us a comment. And if you are not new, you're returning to the channel, thank you guys so much for being a friend as always. And y'all, I very much appreciate it. So thank you guys, and let's just dive right in, guys. Because this story, like I said, it's going to be a doozy. Trigger warning in advance. The way that this case was handled, or should I say mishandled, and all of the details that have come out, it's been bad. And it's safe to say that the investigators in this case completely and utterly dropped the ball, botched this investigation, and it's starting to reek of something more nefarious going on and possible cover-up. I don't know. There's still so much to be uncovered, and like I said in the offset, not many people are talking about this. So I heard about this story a few days ago on Law and Crime, and ever since then I've been doing a lot of research trying to figure out all that I can learn about this case. And I gotta say, there's really not much over the past month. There's been very little coverage on this. News Nation is like the only people that I see really doing coverage, but even that's kind of tamped down over the past 2 weeks. And partly, I guess, is because there's not really been any news updates. But at the same time, if you don't keep these sorts of things in the news cycle, they fade to the background. Like, it's very easy for things like this to just become, you know, yesterday's news, even though it's the most horrific thing ever. I mean, we're talking about 7 people dead in this case, okay? And potential, you know, sex crimes that have happened. We're talking about a convicted pedo who it looks like was the perpetrator of this crime. Potential, like I said, cover-ups, potential involvement by the mother and also victim. There's just a lot to this story, guys. So just like I said, I just wanted to warn you guys. We're going to be getting into it, but I want to know, have you guys even heard about this case? Because like I said, this happened over a month ago. Okay. This happened like in the first days in May. To be more specific, May 1st is when they actually discovered all of this. These two of these young girls here that you see in the picture, 2 of the victims, were at a sleepover party at this pedo's house, and they were murdered by him. So we're still learning of new details, and the authorities have, if they're not completely and utterly botching the investigation, they've been pretty tight-lipped. So I don't want to really give away too much of the offset. So let's just get into some of these things, guys. And okay, let's start with this video. This is from NBC News, and this is the initial press conference by the Okmulgee sheriff. I don't know how you pronounce that, but let's get into it.
Was reported missing to the Okmulgee County Sheriff's Office, and Brittany Brewer was reported missing to the Henrietta Police Department on Monday morning. I received a request shortly after to activate the Violent Crime Task Force. The task force began the investigation, and as part of that obtained a search warrant for the property on Holly Road. Because of the extremely large size of the property, we requested assistance from the OSBI. During the search, the bodies of 7 individuals were recovered. It is important to remember that all of this information is extremely preliminary and no official reports from the medical examiner's office have been issued. The injuries include Ivy Webster suffered 1 gunshot wound to the head. Brittany Brewer suffered 1 gunshot wound to the head. Riley Allen suffered 1 gunshot wound to the head. Tiffany Guess suffered 2 gunshot wounds to the head. Michael Mayo suffered 2 gunshot wounds to the head. Holly McFadden suffered 3 gunshot wounds to the head. And Jesse McFadden appears to have shot himself in the head.
Steve, when do you believe that these killings happened?
I don't know. Based on the investigation, we believe that the girls were spotted in Henrietta on Saturday night. Beyond that, I can't tell you.
Were the victims found in one spot?
No.
Whereabouts were they found?
Ivy, Brittany, and Riley were found separately, approximately 150 to 150 yards apart from each other, and approximately a quarter of a mile southeast of the McFadden residence.
So sick, guys. To think of this and what these people must have gone through. And it's really sad to know that we'll never fully understand what it was that happened here. And there's so many questions that are unanswered. It's truly mind-boggling because I don't know, like obviously you don't get on Reddit, guys, because you start to read conspiracy theories and it can really lead your mind to go to very dark and twisted places, because there was like some theories people were saying that it's possible that, you know, he might not have even done this, that maybe it was part of like a bigger like ring of people. You know, we all know that there are like these, you know, networks of people who operate for nefarious reasons having to do with kids. Okay, if you catch my drift. So I don't know, there's no direct proof being released by the authorities at this point of that, but things that were found in the house told a completely disturbing and alarming story that is just not being talked. I don't understand why this crime is not being talked about. And is, you know, if it's because, oh, well, the killer's dead. It was a clean break. You know, he yes, he killed 6 people, but he also killed himself. So we can just all kind of, you know, wash our hands of this and put it to bed, you know. No need to look any further into it. Well, I don't see it that way, and I don't think these family members see it that way either. So the police are going to have to, I don't know, after dropping the ball the way that they did, and you're going to see, guys, I mean, they're going to have to make something shake here and really, you know, figure out what the hell happened. So I want to tell you guys about the perpetrator, supposed perpetrator, Jesse McFadden. Okay, so he has quite the history on him. So an Oklahoma sex offender who authorities say shot to death his wife, her 3 children, and their 2 friends, and then killed himself, was freed from prison early, despite facing new sex charges in a separate case. Those questions include how he was released on good behavior when the new charges were for soliciting nude images from a teen while he was imprisoned, why he was released on $25,000 bond, and how was a man convicted of R-ing a teenager able to live with teenage girls. Those are all valid questions that we need answers to that we do not have yet. If things had gone differently in the Oklahoma criminal justice system, family members of the victim said maybe their loved ones would still be alive. Jesse McFadden, a 30-year-old convicted R-word, was scheduled to be in court on Monday. That's Monday, May the 1st, when they discovered all of these bodies, for the start of a jury trial on charges that while in prison for R-ing a girl. So the story of this was basically when he was 19 years old, he took advantage and basically raped a 16-year-old girl at knife point, no less. And she's come out and given her statement and her story and backed up what it was that happened to her. And for that crime, he was convicted of 20 years in Oklahoma State Prison. He was required under Oklahoma law to do 85% of his sentence. Well, as it turns out, he did about 84%. I guess they let him out a few years early. So he was released in 2017 after doing about, 18 years? But the thing of it is, it's one thing to be a model prisoner and to be let out early because you've been doing what, you're supposed to be doing while you're in prison. You've been furthering yourself. You've been not getting into any altercations, things of that nature. This is not the case for Jesse. Multiple sources have reported that he had many different infractions while he was in jail. So while you're in prison, every time that you get in trouble in there, they do keep documentation of that. And you can either get, privileges taken away. You can get into actual trouble, like they will place you in solitary confinement. You might get more time tacked onto your sentence. There's multiple different ways that they can punish you while you're in prison if you either break the law by way of, just doing something like you're not supposed to be doing, or actually break the law by either, like trying to escape, assaulting somebody, killing somebody. There's different obviously there's rules in prison, and then there's like the law of the land, and both of those things still apply to prisoners. So he had multiple infractions, including obtaining cell phones on multiple different occasions, one of which he was actually caught sexting a teenage girl in prison. He was in prison for graping a minor, sentenced to 20 years, and then he gets hold of a cell phone and starts sexting another minor. So he got caught, busted there, but was still released early from prison. Had this other charge pending. Okay, so tell me how that works. In what world do you have a rapist? Okay, I'm so over these, I'm tiptoeing around saying these words. I'm so over that. I'm not even monetized. This channel's not even monetized, so just whatever. I don't know what I'm allowed to do. But it's just amazing to me how somebody who is a rapist gets in trouble in prison, okay, gets caught not only with a cell phone, but you're caught texting and sexting and sending illicit messages and receiving them from a minor. And whoever is in charge of letting you out of jail still actually follows through and releases you. It gives you a bond. Not only, it didn't stop there. They not only dropped the ball, the prison system there, he was not even on a registry when he got out. He was not, I guess nobody followed through with that. Nobody followed up to make sure that he was registering as he was supposed to, so that his neighbors or potential parents who might let their kids go over for sleepovers could maybe Google that information and find it out. None of that was done. I mean, these people not only totally screwed everybody involved, all of the victims' families involved in this case were completely and utterly disregarded and just disappointed by not only the investigators who were there on the scene of the crime, who just totally messed this up from the jump, but they were let down by the prison system in Oklahoma as well. And it's disgusting, if I'm being frank. I mean, it's one of the worst cases of just piss poor policing and just not caring. I don't know what it is. I honestly, this is why he was scheduled to be in court on Monday. He had sent text messages to not only this newest victim, this 16-year-old that he was sexting in prison, the weekend leading up to these murders. He also was in contact with his mother, and letting her in on the fact that he was not going to go back to prison. He would not be returning there, and he expressly said to her that he was going to take his own life. And I guess either not taking him seriously, maybe having heard it one too many times, or just being so emotionally and mentally done. Whichever one it is, it's still egregious. She did not alert anybody to this information that her son had called her and given her. Didn't do a welfare check, didn't call the police, didn't do anything. So many people failed. So many people just let things slide by. They just turned the other cheek. They just didn't follow through with their job. It's, like I said, it's egregious, really. So the new felony charges, like I said, were filed in 2017, more than 3 years before McFadden was released from prison in 2020. This is another utter failure. Why does it take 3 years? Okay, so he was in jail. He was in prison in 2017. He was released in 2020. Okay? That case that he caught while he was in prison should have been charged and tried within a year or less. You have him in prison. What is the holdup? That is beyond me. 3 years, and then not only that, let's just ignore the 3 years that they had him in prison and they didn't settle this case with him, work out some sort of deal with him. He gets out in 2020. So he sits it out for 3 years in prison, gets out in 2020, and then here we are in 2023, and he was just now fixing to go to trial for this case. So tell me again how it takes 6 years to prosecute and bring to trial a felony that is harassing or stalking or sexting an underage girl, sending illicit, whatever the charges are. It's completely unacceptable. Murder cases should never take this long. I'm appalled whenever we have murder cases that take longer than 2 to 3, 4 years is pushing it. But it's like, why? I get that the courts are backed up. I get it. This should never happen. People in prison should be given expedited process and should be like just kind of, you should be able to crank those out, right? They're not going anywhere. You have full and utter control over them. They're at your disposal. Let's get these things on a roll, okay? What needs to happen? What needs to happen? I don't get it. That's plenty of time to prosecute any criminal case on the face of the earth. Thank you, Brett Chapman. I'm glad you agree with me. What happened here? That should have kept him in. Agreed. Thank you. Okay, anyways. Muskogee County District Attorney Larry Edwards, whose office was prosecuting the 2017 charges against McFadden, has not returned multiple telephone messages seeking comment. Well, I wonder why Larry's MIA. He must have a guilty conscience. But McFadden's defense attorney, Rex Earl Starr, wow, what a name, said the death of McFadden's first attorney and the COVID-19 pandemic led to long delays in the prosecution. I don't care if McFadden's original and first attorney had died, come back from the dead, caught COVID-19, and then died again. What is the holdup? What is the damn holdup? It's utterly ridiculous. The pandemic happened in what, 2020? This happened in 2017. That's 3 years. Like, what are y'all doing? You should have been, it's ridiculous. On its face, it's absolutely absurd. Still, Starr said he spoke to McFadden on Sunday, the day before he and the 6 victims were found dead. Oh, really? On his rural property east of Henrietta, a town of about 6,000 people, about 90 miles east of Oklahoma City, and didn't suspect anything was wrong. There was no indication whatsoever. We wouldn't be ready to select a jury at noon, Starr said. But in a series of ominous messages with the teenager whom he had allegedly been texting while behind bars, McFadden vowed not to return to prison. According to screen grabs of the messages forwarded to KOKI in Tulsa, McFadden said his great life was crumbling and blamed the teenager for the latest set of charges against him that could put him back in prison for decades. A solicitation conviction can mean a 10-year sentence. The pornography charge could mean 20 years behind bars. Now it's all gone, he texted. I told you I wouldn't go back. This is all on you for continuing this, he said. This man sounded like a real horror show. A spokeswoman for the Oklahoma Department of Corrections said in a statement McFadden was able to earn credits for things like good behavior and completing program and education assignments that were then applied after he served 85% of his sentence. Spokeswoman Kay Thomas added the registered sex offenders are allowed to live with their own children and stepchildren as long as they are not a victim to the offender. Well, he wasn't registered, ma'am. So, what's up with that? Do y'all not check that? Y'all not check on those people? Shouldn't that be something that we kind of give priority to, maybe? I don't know. Just a weird thought. McFadden was not given probation or parole upon his release, but he did have to register as a sex offender and check in every 90 days with the sheriff's office, which Omegle County Police Chief Joe Prentice said McFadden had done. McFadden's prison record shows he had at least 10 misconduct offenses during his 17 years in prison, including consensual sexual activity with other offenders, gross, positive drug tests, and possession of tobacco. So, yeah, the DOC did not address why McFadden was released despite facing new felony charges, but his attorney said that there was no legal mechanism to keep him incarcerated when he had finished serving his time. But, sir, what you fail to understand is there is a legal mechanism for trying crimes, and it's called take them to court. The reaching, it's the reaching for me. It is the making excuses, trying to justify any of this when we know the outcome of it. Even if this, like, let's say he got out in 2020. Fine. Why was he not tried within the year of getting out? And this was when COVID was happening. I get it. I don't care. There were still productive things happening during COVID. Slap a mask on him. Joel Guy's a sick-ass mofo. He was tried during COVID. There was plenty of people tried during COVID, okay? I just don't want to hear it. Any of it, really. Oh, God. And then this attorney, he's a slime ball. The simple answer is that he is innocent until proven guilty. It's basic constitutional provision. Well, yeah, but when you're caught dead to rights, red-handed, with the phone in your possession in prison with illicit messages on it from a teenager, I would say that you're pretty much guilty. But that's just me. After McFadden was released, he was arraigned in Muskogee County on the new charges, and he was released on a $25,000 bond. Wow. Okay, so actually, I want to correct what I previously said, because I'm now looking at this article from the Independent, and I guess I had read this wrong initially, but this guy Fleming, who was a cellmate, I guess you could call him, of Jesse McFadden's, he actually released screenshots and a statement saying that he tried to contact Henrietta Police Department and warn them that Jesse was not being shown as listed a sexual predator, sexual on the registry for these sex offenders. And basically their statement was that because of his address, due to his home address, Henrietta Police Department would have no records kept of his registration. So that's another issue with, Oklahoma, what the hell's going on out there? You guys are normally pretty good. I don't understand. Like, if you're registered in one place, why would that not pop up all across the state? Especially from agency to agency. Isn't that shared information? So what if he had gone to buy a gun? Like, does this show up on the federal background checks? I don't get it. I just really don't. Because according to this article here, the McFadden address was located in an unincorporated part of OK County, where his registration was up to date. Okay, so I don't know what's going on there, but it seems very sketchy. This whole business of these details, everything about this case is one big red flag. Other people were bringing up whether or not the mother of the children who were murdered also married to this man. They were speculating whether or not Holly Guest actually knew anything about his previous crimes. And from the information that's being gathered is that she was completely in the dark. Now, more information and even further evidence has come out to suggest, and it's not been proven or even verified yet, I don't believe, that she may have not only known more than what was initially reported, but it's possible that she may have had some involvement, either directly or indirectly. And I am definitely curious about that aspect of it. That's one of the main details that I think people are really wanting to know. And once you guys see the state of this house, you will understand what I'm talking about. So, but at the very beginning, people were saying, oh, well, she didn't know, you know, he had lied to her, he charmed her and all of this. But from what we're seeing of the videos from the house, it's not looking too good. So is this just showing that he followed a bunch of young girls on TikTok? I don't know. There's no sound to this video. But that's what it looks like. He follows just a bunch of young girls. Wow. Typical pedophile doing pedophile shit. No surprise there. So this was the message supposedly sent by this Fleming guy, who was the cellmate of Jesse McFadden, to the Henrietta Police Department, saying, do you have a list of registered sex offenders in town? And they supposedly responded, the state has a public list. And he replied, I checked the list but didn't see a sex offender listed that lives in town. I normally would not get involved, but I know he's a predator with multiple offenses. And this was on January 27th, supposedly. And it's just so sad. It is so very disgusting how badly they just, I mean, they screwed this up royally. It's so disgusting. And I mean, it's a small town, so maybe they just weren't taking it seriously. They were just chalking it up to, like, you know, this was just gossip. This was just like people that are in some sort of quarrel with each other. I don't know. I can't honestly explain it. So let's get into some of the videos. And this is a bit disturbing. I mean, it's like I said, there's nothing graphic going to be shown here, but it is just eerie. And the evidence that was left behind in this house is something unlike anything I've ever seen before. The fact that the police could have left all of these things and then let these people go into the house after the fact, find them, and then be treated like they were an inconvenience, be treated like they were just being bothersome. It's astonishing. So let's watch this, guys, from Ashley Mansfield on News Nation.
If you were just watching the last part of this program, we told you a lot of evidence that was discovered, even after all of the additional evidence found on Friday by the families. You know, the police just opened up the scene again. Families came back and found another trove, even worse than the first trove. Bloody clothes of toddlers. More restraints. Holly's handwriting on ledgers with children's names and birthdays. That's evidence that may have actually implicated Holly in these horrible crimes of her sex offender husband. Crimes in which she herself ended up murdered, as did her 3 children, before Jesse McFadden turned the gun on himself. This was exclusive video we brought to you on Friday. But now, in light of what's under those floorboards, the additional phones that were found with children's wallets on the back, additional drugs, additional restraints, we're now looking at this video with a whole new perspective. So I'm going to play this for you, and I'm going to pause it each time so that we can start looking not just at the restraints or the liquor and the drugs and the syringes, but now at what might be in the background, now that we know how much else was in that house. Bloodied children's clothes under the floorboards. Restraints stuck behind the dresser. In this first tape I'm going to play you, the families of Ivy Webster and Brittany Brewer, who were the 2 kids who came on a sleepover and were murdered. They arrive on the scene. They are all focused on finding their daughter's phones, right? But then they notice there are beds in every single room. It is unusual. Watch it again. Make sure to pay attention to the background details, and we will pause it when there's something significant. Take a look. While most people were looking at the beds, there are these: computers, media devices, a DVD player, maybe a VHS player. A VHS tape was found with compromising information on it, a CD or DVD, and then big boxes and boxes of what looked like maybe more tapes. And if you think about a sex offender or pedophile, you imagine that tapes would be important to collect. Also in this next clip, I want to show you, most people were focused on the filth and the dead bugs on the floor of the house and in the kitchen. But I want you to look at some of the details around that when we play this next clip. The details around the dead bugs in the kitchen. Take a look.
And then here, come over here and you gotta watch that.
The focus here is that heating vent on the floor. And if you can see, the top of it is actually pulled out and cast to the side. Maybe it's an accident or maybe it was a place to hide something, but that vent in the floor is pulled out and it's out on the side beside the hole in the floor. I want to take you now to the storage room. This is where the parents actually found their dead daughter's cell phones up on a shelf in a cupboard. I want you to look at it again, but take a look at some of the other details on the shelves near where the cell phones are found.
Don't move them.
Let's back out.
That's good.
Okay. I'm calling you.
Are you done looking?
No.
And that guy who you could just hear in the background, that is apparently the landlord who was acting like such a dick. Okay? Just complete and utter insensitive asshole. I don't know what his deal was, but apparently he was being very just prickly the entire time that these people were trying to come in here and collect their dead daughter's belongings, trying to get some answers, all the while finding this house in the state that it's in. And you can clearly see that there's shit everywhere, including evidence, actual evidence that the police might want. And all he can say is, "Are you done looking now?" It just, I mean, this whole case is astonishing. Let me play it again for you guys.
I'm calling you.
Are you done looking?
No.
I'm not done looking, but that's evidence.
Okay.
He used our daughter's cell phone.
And whatever's behind that.
Yep. Okay.
And they're not concerned about looking anywhere else.
This house needs to be stripped.
Again, the parents were looking for the cell phones of their daughters, but look up top. Big bags filled with who knows what. Sharp edges, maybe equipment, books, tapes, who knows, but the police left it all.
Mayo and Riley Allen, all between the ages of 13 and 17. Brittany Brewer, Ivy Webster, Tiffany Guess, Michael Mayo, and Riley Allen, all between the ages of 13 and 17, along with Holly Guess, each shot to death.
Investigators have confirmed convicted sex offender Jesse McFadden killed those 6 victims, then himself. Earlier this week, law enforcement released the home where the murders occurred, giving it back to the property owner. And as of Tuesday afternoon, there was no longer an active investigation at this location.
In an effort to figure out what led up to this horrific murder-suicide, the families of the victims have launched their own search for answers.
The parents of teenager Ivy Webster wanted to go through the crime scene, hoping they could find something that would explain what happened. Once the crime tape was removed from the home and the scene released by law enforcement, the family went inside.
They left yesterday devastated by what they found. News 4's Kaylee Olivas was with the family the entire time. She has this News 4 exclusive.
We do want to warn you, the images you're about to see from inside the home are disturbing. It was hard to watch Ivy's family as they discovered what they believe is crucial evidence that was left behind by law enforcement. In a matter of minutes, they found their own daughter's cell phone tucked away in a cabinet, and that was just the beginning. Now they're wondering whether law enforcement dropped the ball.
We can't have parents go through what we have. I'm angry. This should have never happened.
His daughter Ivy was only 14 years old when Jesse McFadden murdered her. Okmulgee police say Ivy died from a gunshot wound to the head. Her family has zero answers, couldn't say goodbye, and has no closure. So now they're looking for it.
I feel that my daughter, even right now, is standing behind me, telling me to keep going. Keep doing this.
Phone or phone case.
Thursday afternoon, News 4 was invited by Webster and his family to take a closer look at where his daughter took her last breath. Behind these walls, the family found sex and bondage devices. In one of the bedrooms were restraints bolted into the bed frame. There was also a shelf filled with books about witchcraft. 10 feet away in the kitchen, another restraint with chains and locks still attached. Although there were reportedly 4 bodies found in this home, we didn't see any bloodstains, no blood splatters. In the back room, the most shocking find of it all, crucial items that had not been collected.
That's them. Hey, that's them.
Is that hers?
Yep. Okay, hold on.
Call the sheriff.
Yep.
Don't touch him. Don't move him.
Ivy Webster's cell phone was tucked away in a laundry room cabinet, along with 2 other cell phones and 2 laptops. In the same room, syringes, what appears to be drug residue, and various items the family believes was used to torture their daughter before she was murdered. None of it collected by law enforcement until this family called the Okmulgee County Sheriff's Office and asked them to come back to the home and retrieve these items.
There you go.
Pictures were snapped and the items finally collected, but not without a brief explanation as to why it hadn't been done before.
I want more done.
The problem is, we don't know what else to do.
That is the problem. You're right. You hit the nail on the head, sir. The problem is that you're out here all by yourself. Are you a police officer? Because you look like a civilian. That's the first problem. The second problem is you're out here all by yourself. The third problem is you don't know what else to do. And that's the biggest problem. Because what the hell aren't you even... what are you doing? Then if you don't know what else to do, why are you over there with the damn camera in your hand snapping pictures? Obviously, you know what to do, right? So do it. Like, I know this is not the first murder to ever happen in this county. I would hope not. I mean, I get that this is probably a pretty large caseload for, a town, whatever y'all's jurisdiction is. I get this is probably a pretty big caseload for y'all, but at the same time, that's when that's when you try to, call in for backup, call in for reinforcements, give the case over to the FBI, give the case over to literally the FBI are the most feckless, cucked out, useless organization that ever probably existed in our government, besides every other alphabet agency, but they could have done a better job than this. This is ridiculous. How did y'all not find the dead victim's cell phone? And why is there shit just everywhere? There's holes in the wall of the door. This house is a huge, giant, screaming red flag. And you guys, y'all effed it up completely.
The story to be told here.
Right.
We don't know what happened.
Don't know what else to do. I'm going to say this.
Since we don't have the only person that can tell us what happened.
He's dead. But we can try to piece it together.
And I'm going to say this was not done right. No crime scene tape.
We are open to any suggestions you all can
I'm saying this. They didn't do their job, and the whole world's going to know it.
What would this accomplish?
Oh, wow.
I'm a grieving parent that my daughter got raped and murdered, and you're telling me right now that I don't have a right to know what happened? The story's right here. It's right here. And it's still sitting here. Still!
Disgusted with the investigation into his daughter's murder, he only saw more uncollected evidence on his walkout. Another phone in the top drawer of a nightstand, several computer towers, and a check made out to a local storage company still sitting in plain sight.
I'm upset, healing, trying to heal, still confused, still a lot of answers that need to be given.
We've spent the day trying to find out why the cell phones, the laptops, and other evidence was left behind. We were told by a sheriff's investigator in Okmulgee County that they were only responsible for searching the property, not the house. He said the house was the sole responsibility of the OSBI. Well, the OSBI did issue a statement saying, quote, the OSBI will continue to support and assist our law enforcement partners and grieve with the families of this horrible event. The investigation is still ongoing.
Not the county officials trying to point the finger at the OSBI. Wow. I mean, the more I look at news and the more I see these stories, these crimes, these atrocities, the way these cops don't know half the time what it is the hell that they're doing, it really does dishearten me a lot. I mean, and the fact that, like, technology's gotten better. It's easier than ever to solve crimes. Now, it wasn't your job? It wasn't your job when you show up to a murder scene with 7 bodies, okay? 6 murdered, 1 suicided himself. It's not your job to go look inside the house, or at least make sure somebody else is doing it. Get somebody else to do it, if you will. Make sure that the OSBI is doing their job. If you're gonna throw your hands up in the air and say, "Oh well, it's not part of my job," I'm not gonna, wow, real great. But yet, had this perpetrator still been alive and on the run, then you guys would have had to kick your asses into high gear and figure out where he was at, try to find him. But because, like I said, it was a clean break, I feel like they just got lazy and complacent, and they didn't think that, people were gonna push the issue, but they were sadly and sorely mistaken. Even though it doesn't look like the media has any interest in pushing this at all, the families are definitely pushing it. I will continue to be following this case, but it's just sickening to see. So let's get into a couple more videos.
Horrible murder-suicide? Well, it's possible now that Holly may have been involved. Evidence collected at the scene much later than police had left it and opened it back up to the public. Evidence now collected shows she may have an integral role, in fact, in the abuse of other children, other victims who may still come to light. We have exclusive videos that were shot by a family member and turned over to us on the Banfield team that we're going to show you tonight of some of the evidence that was collected and some of the activity on the ranch yesterday and today. The Oklahoma State investigators coming out and looking into containers on the property, RVs on the property. We'll have to apologize for the grainy nature of this video, but this was shot almost hurriedly as the Oklahoma investigators showed up back on the scene with their mobile analysis unit. Medical examiner also appearing on the scene today and spending hours upon hours at that scene. A medical examiner not typically called out to a scene unless there are bodies. Still no announcement from the authorities if in fact they have found more bodies. But the drones flew overhead. Who knows if they had heat seeking? Evidence was processed out of a car. As you can see, the evidence envelopes at this point. Better late than never, I guess. But really, 7-8 days later, there's the drone. You can just see it flying. They had taken a couple of drones. They brought out all of this heavy equipment, excavators, earth movers, potentially to dig on that property for more bodies. Here are some of the things I can tell you that family members were able to find. And this is after Friday, after they'd been able to actually go through the house the first time. Bloody toddler clothing that was found beneath the floorboards. The blood apparently still wet enough to get on the hands of the person who picked it up from under the floorboards. A 4-inch stack of Polaroids. 4-inch stack of Polaroids of children. VHS tape showing possible abuse. A ledger containing the names of children and birth dates. A long piece of lumber that had multiple chains and padlocks attached to it and spaced along the piece of lumber. Multiple phones, 5 of them in fact stacked, apparently all Holly's former phones. This piece of lumber, by the way, just point out the person who's holding it. That's not a police officer. No, this is evidence of potential sexual crimes in the hands of family members because they found it, not the police. The police didn't bag that up as evidence. The family members had it and photographed it. And just beneath, if we can drop our banner on that photograph, just quickly drop the banner, you can count 1, 2, 3 padlocks on those chains on that board. As far as the phones, yes, Holly's former 5 phones, but also 3 other phones. We don't know who owns them, but one additional phone on top of those 3 looked like a child's phone because it had a Panda wallet that was attached to the back, the kind of Panda wallet that a child might actually have on the back of his.
And why don't we have that? Why don't we know who those phones belong to? Why is, again, I go back to why is nobody talking? This should be like headline news, like literally everywhere. I remember like when the Idaho murders first happened. I mean, you could not like get away from that story. And granted, you know, there was sensationalism there, but there is also sensationalism in this case as well. It's not like this is just some boring whatever. You know, people want to talk about these crimes like they're, you know, movies or something that to be made a spectacle of. But that is the state of our news media, and they don't normally talk about crimes that are not what some might call quote unquote sexy. And I hate using that term about crimes, but people do it all the time. And I think you guys know what I mean in reference to that. But I'm just saying, this has all the makings of something that is so bad, so wrong, so nefarious, so horrific. And why? Why is this not highlighted? Why are people not asking more questions? Are there more victims? Why was the Oklahoma prison system such a failure? Why were these cops such a failure? I don't know, y'all. What do y'all think? Y'all let me know in the comments. Please let me know in the comments down below. So these are the last couple things we'll get into. This is a little bit more recent news story about some letters that McFadden apparently wrote to his sexting victim. So let's see.
We're back on the case, learning more about this man, Jesse McFadden.
He's accused of murdering his wife, her children, and 2 teens at a sleepover at his home before killing himself. News 4 was the only television station when the Webster family walked through the McFadden's home. Inside,
video shows copies of letters and journal entries. Level 1. Only 5 months later, he was back on good terms and sentenced to 20 years in 2003. During his time, he was put on what's called a level 4, meaning he had, quote, outstanding behavior. That is until 2016 when he was caught with a cell phone authorities say he used to sext a teenage girl. The following year, he was charged with child porn, and his inmate status dropped to level 1. Only 5 months later, he was back on good terms. But at the same time, writing that same teenager letters from jail. This exclusive video shows copies of letters and journal entries, about 200 pages worth, found in McFadden's home last week. The victim told News 4 off camera she must have been 15 or 16 when McFadden wrote these. In the letters, McFadden told her how much he loved her and wanted to make her his wife. He also mentioned the sexual acts he would perform on her. Written in almost every letter, this quote, "I'm doing everything to get out sooner." McFadden went on to complete 85% of his sentence, which is required by the state. And after 17 years, and with his good credits, he was released.
So let's just stop for a second. Okay, so in 2003 he was 19 when he went into jail, right? Okay, so 17 years later, oh my god, my brain hurts. Okay, I'm sorry, 13 years later, because he got out in 2020. That would have been 17 years. So 19, he was in his 30s when he was sexting this 16-year-old girl, telling her sexual things that he wanted to do to her and that he wanted to marry her. And he was still let out of prison. My God.
Despite still facing a child porn charge. McFadden wasn't on probation. He did have to check in with the Okmulgee Sheriff's Office every 3 months. The DOC claims he was compliant with this, but a sheriff's investigator has painted a different picture.
So who is supposed to be checking on a sexual offender?
It's public record. It's everywhere.
So nobody's supposed to come and do checks?
We do compliance checks, but it's like tell a card, see which one we're going to do, because that's all we have the resources to do.
Your video is undeniable. It's undeniable that you blew it.
News 4 reached out to the Okmulgee County Sheriff's Office for a detailed record of McFadden's compliance checks, but we haven't heard back. All the while, a pending child porn charge that took 3 years for a trial date to be set.
The story from the district attorney's office is that, one, they got caught up into, they had a prosecutor break an ankle. That delayed the trial. Then the pandemic happened.
Cameron Spradling, the attorney for Ivy Webster's family, also claims a defense attorney in McFadden's case died from COVID. And finally, on the day the trial is supposed to start, McFadden killed 6 people, then himself. And according to NBC News, sometime before the killings, McFadden sent these social media messages to his child pornography victim. He tells her, quote, "I told you I wouldn't go back. This is all on you for continuing this." A delay in justice, Ivy's family says, led to innocent lives being lost. In Henrietta, Kaylee Olivas, Oklahoma's News 4.
Jesse McFadden was also required to let the State Department of Human Services know he would be living with his 3 stepchildren. We've reached out to DHS to confirm if he did, but they say they are unable to release that information.
They're unable to release the information because they're also feckless and they don't know what the hell is going on either. A whole entire state worth of failures. You know, just a whole lot of, not my job, not my problem type of shit going on in the state of Oklahoma. And it's sick to see. So, okay, this is the last video, guys.
And court records now show a possible motive. He allegedly told his mom he didn't want to go back to jail and planned to kill himself. On top of all this, those very records depict false information. Officials reported Tiffany Guess as one of the original missing teens. That's not true. They also called the alert an Amber Alert, when in fact it was a missing and endangered alert.
I'm not surprised at all based off the incompetence we've already seen from the sheriff's office. We need to have the FBI here now to start investigating what's going on in this county and that sheriff's office.
In Henrietta, Keely Olivas, Oklahoma's News 4.
We filed.
So, yeah. We're in so much trouble, guys. We really are. Y'all pray for the state of this nation, for the people, and just, I don't know. It's sick. So the autopsies show 2 Henrietta mass murder victims were sexually assaulted. This is the latest come out just, I think, a day or two ago. Oh, this came out yesterday. So they released this information finally about the victims and what it was that they had endured. And all of the victims were shot to death. 2 of them had been assaulted by this disgusting man. All victims were found outside of the home on that massive property. And what followed after that was just a massive failure by everyone involved. Not only leading up to the case, but following the discovery of this horrific crime scene. It's one of the more egregious things I've seen ever. Not only just the crime itself, but the handling of it is just something to sit and ponder and really be in utter shock and dismay about. Because how did this happen? How? So, guys, what do y'all think about this case? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And it's something that I will definitely be following. Again, there's not much information whatsoever about this case, so it's going to be difficult to track because they're not talking about it. And, like, nobody's talking. I haven't even seen that many YouTubers do videos about it. There's a couple, but I'm like, hello? Like, this is 7 people died. And, like, do we not care when the killer also kills himself? Because there's been other cases like this where it has been given more airtime than this ever has. So I just, what do y'all think that's all about? Let me know. So please like this video also if you guys liked it, and I would greatly appreciate it if you guys could subscribe to the channel. Again, like I said, this video is impossible to be monetized. I mean, this channel, there's like no possibility for me to get monetized. I've already tried to apply for it once. I'd have to like completely change the way I do my videos, limit my speech completely, and so I don't even want to do that. So anything you can do to help me out would really, I would greatly appreciate it. So let me know what y'all think about the case. I will provide updates when possible, and I'll be following this closely, but it's an atrocity. It's just so sick that this has not been given more answers, more light, more care from the people who are supposed to protect and serve. I mean, it's disgusting. So, until next time, guys, you all take it easy, stay safe, and I will see you guys later. Bye!
I just tell the truth, and telling the truth is crazy in a world full of lies. If you mix brilliance with bravery, that we can ignite something. Even this conversation alone can ignite the people.
The time is now to express and for people to believe in themselves. The time is now for it to be okay to be great. People in this world shun people for being great, for being a bright color, for standing out. But the time is now to be okay to be the greatest you.